I never imagined that the words that would finally break me wouldn't come from a doctor, but from my own daughter. I was lying in that cold, white hospital bed hooked up to beeping machines and IVs after suffering a minor heart episode. It wasn't life-threatening. Not yet, at least. But I was weak, tired, vulnerable, and I expected warmth when she walked in. I looked up, hoping for a smile, a hand squeeze, even one of those hurried, half-hearted, "How are you, Mom?" But she barely glanced at me. "Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video." Instead, she sighed, dramatically, tossing her designer handbag on the chair like she'd just been summoned to jury duty. And then she said it, loud enough for the nurse changing my IV to hear. "Why are you even still alive?" The nurse froze. I couldn't breathe, not because of the condition that landed me there, but because something inside me cracked wide open. She didn't say it in jest. She wasn't angry. She said it like someone asking why a faucet is still dripping, like my presence was an inconvenience. I didn't speak. I just turned my head away and stared at the wall until she walked out. She didn't hug me. She didn't say goodbye. "My name is Eleanor. I raised 3 children mostly on my own after my husband died when they were young. I worked double shifts, packed lunches, sat in the bleachers even when I could barely afford to put gas in the car. I sold my jewelry so Olivia, my daughter, could have a piano. I gave her my youth, and now she looked at me like I was a chore. That night, while the machines ticked and hummed beside me, I stared out of the tiny hospital window. The stars looked smug, like they'd seen this story play out 1,000 times. I didn't sleep. I thought. I remembered. And then, just before dawn, I made a decision. By 8 a.m., I was out of that hospital bed. Against advice. Against reason. I signed the discharge papers with shaking hands and didn't call anyone. I didn't want another empty "feel better." Instead, I got a cab home, packed exactly 1 bag, withdrew everything from my joint account, the one she thought I'd leave her, and left a letter on my kitchen table. Not a will, a truth, a reckoning, a story that started with how I saved her from drowning when she was 5, and ended with how she made me drown inside at 73. By noon, I was at the airport. I didn't go to Florida, or anywhere safe. I flew to Portugal, a place I'd always dreamed of but was too busy being a mother to see. And Olivia? She wouldn't find the note until it was far too late, until the world she assumed would be hers, the house, the savings, the comfort, was already melting beneath her feet. I didn't die that day, but something in me came alive. I arrived in Lisbon with no map, no plan, and no one waiting for me. But somehow, for the first time in decades, I didn't feel lost. I felt free. I rented a modest apartment with a small balcony overlooking the Alfama district, where the streets were lined with pastel-colored buildings and the smell of roasted chestnuts floated in the air. Every morning, I'd sit with my coffee, watch the trams rattle past, and feel the silence wrap around me like a balm. I wasn't lonely. I was rebuilding. I signed up for language lessons, though my accent was terrible and my verbs always ended up in the wrong tense. I found a community center that hosted art therapy classes, and I picked up a paintbrush for the first time since 1982. My hands trembled, but I painted. Memories, emotions, the ache, the fire, all of it. Every day that passed, I expected to feel guilt, to miss my children, to reach for the phone, but I didn't. Because they hadn't called either, not once, until one rainy Wednesday. I was slicing fresh bread at the kitchen counter when my neighbor Elsa knocked. "There's a young woman downstairs," she said in broken English, "and she's crying." It was Olivia, soaked from the rain, makeup streaked down her cheeks, looking more like a child than I had seen her in years. I opened the door slowly, unsure what she even expected to find. A hug? Forgiveness? She didn't say, "Mom." She said, "How could you leave like that?" I almost laughed. The irony. I didn't let her in right away. I handed her an umbrella. She followed me silently up the stairwell. When we sat, she started rambling about the will, about the house, about how no one could find me. "After you left," she whispered, "I went to your place and found that letter. I I thought it was a joke." "It wasn't," I said. She looked at me stunned. "You cut me off." I nodded. "Yes, because you told me I didn't deserve to live, and for once, I believed you." She started to cry again. "I didn't mean it. I was overwhelmed, tired, stupid." "I was tired too," I replied, my voice calm, "for 30 years. She asked if there was still a way to fix it, if we could go back to how it was. And here's the twist. I said yes, but not for her, for the child she used to be, the one I loved so deeply, the one who used to draw me pictures with "I love you, Mommy" in crayon. So I handed her a thick envelope, not with money, but with something more brutal, photocopies of my updated will, with all 3 of my children removed. Instead, the beneficiaries were the community center, a women's shelter, and a scholarship in my name for single mothers. She stared at the papers. "But you're joking, right?" "I'm finally serious," I whispered, "and maybe now you'll understand what it means to feel left behind." She stayed in Lisbon for 3 more days. Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video. Not because I asked her to, but because, I think, she couldn't quite make peace with what she'd read in that envelope. The Olivia who once barked, "Why are you even still alive?" had vanished. In her place was a woman who now understood just how alive I'd always been, and how invisible she had made me feel. She hovered around my apartment, offering to help with groceries, asking if I needed medication, suggesting we talk things out. But I didn't want patchwork healing stitched with guilt and fear. I wanted time. I wanted choice. I wanted peace. And for the first time in my life, I had all 3. On the second night, she made dinner. She placed the plates down like she used to as a teenager, clumsy, defensive. Her hands trembled. "Do you remember when we used to eat spaghetti and listen to Elvis?" she asked. "I do," I said. "You always wore that blue apron with the pocket falling off." I nodded. "I should have remembered that version of you," she said softly. "But that was the problem. No one did. My kids saw me as a utility, a woman who showed up, gave, forgave, disappeared. When I aged, I became an obligation, and when I got sick, I became a burden. It didn't matter how many birthdays I'd planned or how many nights I stayed up baking cupcakes after shifts at the diner. All they remembered was that I took up space. And so I left. By the 3rd morning, Olivia stood by the door with her suitcase. Her tears were silent this time. She reached out, hesitant, uncertain. I didn't flinch, but I didn't step forward either. We stood like that, in the soft Lisbon sunlight, 2 women divided by decades of disappointment. "I'm sorry," she said again. "I don't expect anything." "You never needed to be perfect," I replied. "You just needed to be kind." She nodded. She left. That afternoon, I walked to the notary's office and signed the final copy of my will. Everything, my savings, my pension, my life insurance, was going to women who needed it most, the ones abandoned, the ones silenced, the ones like me. Months passed. Lisbon embraced me like no one else had. I painted. I taught English to immigrant women. I adopted a rescue dog named Vasco who never left my side. And slowly, the ache dulled. The silence became sanctuary. Then, on my 71st birthday, something arrived in the mail. A painting. A child's painting. Sloppy, colorful, joyful. A sun with a big grin. A woman with gray hair standing beside a little girl. Inside was a card. Olivia had found a local children's shelter in our old town. She'd begun volunteering, helping young girls process trauma through art. "Mom," the card read, "I can't undo what I said. I can't take back what I broke. But I'm trying to build something with what's left. Thank you for walking away when I needed to wake up." I didn't cry. I smiled. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about rebirth. My children had turned me into a shadow, but I left the hospital, the country, and that note not to destroy them, but to finally rebuild myself. And in doing so, I did shatter their world, just not with rage, with truth, with freedom. with the kind of love that no longer demanded my sacrifice. And as I looked out at the Lisbon skyline, the wind lifting Vasco's ears and the smell of roasted chestnuts drifting through my window, I whispered one last thing to myself. I am still alive, and I finally remember why. Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video?